Pleased to welcome our newest member, one of our newest members, the President and the Honorable Herb Wesson, who is in fact with us this morning. We were expecting a couple of other members, but I think we will move forward and get this love fest started. Are there any cards?
We have one card on this item.
Okay, why don't we take the card, then we'll take some testimony. Mr. Herman. The floor is yours, sir.
Do we have a quorum, first of all?
Well, not for voting purposes, but for your purposes, it's
Okay.
quorumish.
Well, should we, as taxpayers, allow AEG to provide us with more transparency to the critical milestones of this economic impact to build a new stadium for the NFL? The action should not go forward because it is up to the stakeholders and the taxpayers to make these decisions that are critical, that impact the economy for the residents that are going to be affected in the area. Many promises were made to many of the constituents of getting jobs and being a part of the growth there. But now off topic, on the same topic, really, for this team, a plan to addressing AEG, it states here that there's a need of $150,000 more for the city to pay for the evaluation to be increased. Let me read that correctly for you folks. The $150,000 AEG offered to help the city pay for the evaluation night need to be increased. So constantly there's these increases of at a cost, and who is to say that the taxpayer should pick up any of this? Again, thank you, Mr. Price. Thank you, Mr. Herb Wesson. I know we don't have a quorum, and I hope that the vote doesn't go through until there is public comment to address this issue, not just by one stakeholder, myself here this morning on a Friday, beautiful day in LA, and not to mention that my arm is feeling better, Mr. Koretz, and I'm sorry you're not here today to address the assault. But let's get off and speak about AEG. So again, AEG, let's do more for the community. Let's spend more interest and transparency and hold public meetings so that public interest and public comment can help you resolve some of our complaints and issues with AEG.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any other cards?
No other cards.
Okay, Ms. Clerk, why don't you read the matter before us, please?
Item number one is Item number one is a joint report from the CLA and the CAO relative to an extension of the new hall and event center agreement with AEG and the Los Angeles Convention Center Development Alternative.
Okay, this proposed extension has generated a lot of interest and support. Preliminarily, let's hear from the CAO and CLO about exactly what's being proposed.
Good morning. Sharon So, CLA. In September 2012, the city entered into an agreement with AEG to develop a new convention center hall as well as an event center to house the NFL. This agreement, which we're calling for, just for reference purposes, Plan A, expires next week, October 18, 2014. In June of this year, due to the uncertainty with regard to the NFL, the city authorized a design competition for the Convention Center Modernization and Expansion Project. BOE was tasked with this and has selected 3 architects and is ready to issue a notice to proceed with this effort. We're calling this Plan B. On September 29, AEG submitted a request to extend their agreement for 6 months and even up to 1 year to secure an NFL team. AEG has offered to secure an architect to develop an alternative design for the convention center, as well as a hotel offsite if they are unsuccessful in signing an NFL team. AEG offered to expend $750,000 on this effort, but it would have placed the city's design competition on hold. For the last week, your CAO and CLA have worked with AEG And we had one goal, or actually several goals in mind. We really wanted to maximize the city's options with regard to both Plan A and Plan B. We wanted to maintain momentum in this process by continuing to move forward on the convention center improvements and also to capitalize on all of these collective efforts to date. So we believe that the proposal contained in the joint CAO-CLA report accomplishes those objectives, and I'm going to turn it over to Miguel to first talk about Plan A.
Good
If
morning.
I, Mr. Chair, so what plan is this?
So, sir, we are referring what is contained in our report
Or is this Plan B
B+.
plus?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Miguel Santana, CAO. So for the public and for members of the committee, I'm going to sort of summarize what the original Plan A is. And it's important to remind everyone that it's still the city's position, and I think that of AEG's, that Plan A is the preferred option. And what's before you is an extension of Plan A without any changes to that structure that was adopted almost 2 years ago. From a financial standpoint, Plan A it assures that there is absolutely no general fund subsidy of the stadium. In fact, the general fund will be fully protected in every way should Plan A proceed forward. The 2/3 of the funding sources are coming from private sources for the convention center itself. And these are sources that are generated through revenue that are generated from the stadium. And there is no public subsidy whatsoever of the stadium itself. And people find that hard to believe, but actually not a single penny of public money will be going to build the stadium if we move forward. The deal points include a ground lease of 55 years that AEG must pay for the land for the stadium itself at market rate. They must secure an NFL contract, which is what's before you in terms of discussion, and that they must secure financing for the stadium, including taxing themselves of LA Live to generate some of the revenue necessary.
So the proposal before you, rather than the original proposal contained in the AEG letter of September 29, AEG has agreed to fund a collaborative design process. The city will issue the notice to proceed to the previously selected architects who will be tasked with presenting the design concepts for modernization and expansion of the convention center. The CAO and CLA will lead this process with the assistance of the Convention Center Commission, BOE, as well as AEG. AEG has agreed to deposit $750,000 with the city to fund this effort, as well as other analyses required to consider the design concepts that are presented. At the end of this process, the city will have 6 design concepts to review. And this is compared with the 3 concepts that were contemplated in Plan B and the 1 alternative that was contemplated in the September 29 letter from AEG. These concepts will include architectural models, 3D renderings, site plans, floor plans, exterior elevations, cost estimates, as well as phasing plans and design and construction schedules. And so for shorthand, we are referring to this as Plan B+. Concurrent with this effort, AEG will be afforded the time to pursue Plan A. The city and AEG will also review other project issues related to Plan A and B. And the other benefit to the city is that the $600,000 that the city originally contemplated spending will now be a savings in as much as AEG has agreed to fund this design collaborative process.
So
Just to clarify on it, initially I know under the proposed design plan that the city had, there was $600,000 allocated for 3 plans, and so it's going to be $750 now for 6 plans.
So it will still be $600,000 for 6 plans. BOE was successful in working with the architects, so they have agreed to actually submit 2 plans each, and it will be based on the design criteria that will be sent to the architects The design criteria may include such things as increasing the convention center space from the 700,000 plus to 1 million square feet, increasing the number of meeting rooms, a ballroom, connectivity between the convention center, LA Live, the Pico Union area, and the surrounding area. So those will all come forth. The $150,000 would be set aside for analysis of those design concepts as it relates to economic impact, as well as bond counsel and financing.
And so the $600,000 that the city had initially proposed will just stay in the bank, or it's going to be melded in somewhere else?
So the CAO was originally going to be issuing debt for that $600,000, and now that will be a savings to the city.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay.
So
Continue.
I guess the bottom line question is, so what happens in 6 months? And as the CLA indicated, should you approve this item, we will know a couple of things. The first is whether Plan A or not is viable. And if it is, in 6 months, then the process would begin to effectuate all that encompasses Plan A, which is already outlined in that proposal. If it's not successful, then we'll have 6 different alternatives to look at. The first question is, what will it generally look like? And keep in mind, these are conceptual drawings. These are not plans for construction. They're sort of broad drawings that give you a sense of what potentially a new convention center could look like with an adjacent hotel and one within a hotel in the surrounding campus. The second is, how much would it cost and how will we pay for it? So again, 6 different proposals will have a sense of the general costs associated with each one of those various proposals and present to you various financing schemes based on the proposals themselves and AAG's contribution to implement those proposals. The third is, what other opportunities do we have? And, in order to allow for some private or non-public use, the financing has to be structured in a particular way. So this could be an opportunity to look at what other uses could be used to generate revenue for the city in relation to the different plans. The fourth question is, how quickly can it get done? And this is especially important because we want to provide as much assurance to the convention center business that the city has a plan and that we're moving forward on it on a schedule. And so we'll be able to tell you generally how long each plan would take, what's required, what new changes need to be done in terms of the schedule that we're currently on. The fifth question is, how does it meet our needs? And in terms of having the city being more competitive, what does it do in terms of the overall capacity, in terms of ballroom space and meeting space, et cetera. And so each one of the plans will be able to give you some scope of that. The sixth question is, what does it do to our hotel capacity? There's certainly a discussion around needing more hotel capacity to not only attract more visitors to Los Angeles, but to help make the convention center more competitive. So at the end of this 6-month process, we should be able to respond to all 6 of those questions and give you a summary of each one of the proposals in relation to how these questions are answered. And as the CLA indicated, the mantra we were working on is to provide you at the end of this process as many options to consider so that you could decide how to move forward after that.
So with that, we would recommend that you approve the recommendations contained in the joint CAO-CLA report. We also have a technical amendment that John Wickham would like to read into the record.
Okay, morning.
Yes, good morning. The city attorney has asked that we read this into the record. In taking this action, the committee is relying on EIR number ENV-2011-0585-EIR, certified by City Council on September 28th, 2012. This simply links this action with the previous actions that were taken with regard to entitlements and environmental approvals. Thank you.
Thank you. We've been joined by our colleague, Mr. Koretz. Thank you for joining us, and another new member of this committee. We're pleased to have you here, sir. Just to clarify again, of the 6 designs, one design or 3 of the designs will show a hotel on-site or near-site. Was there some requirement along those lines, or?
So 3 of the designs, one from each architect, will include the preservation of a hotel site. We are not designing a hotel.
But-
We'll make that very clear.
Okay,
It's
but that
just the
pad will
preservation
identify where that pad
area
would be.
for a potential hotel on site. The other 3 concepts, also one each from each architect, will include a hotel off-site and how that would actually connect with the overall convention center campus as well as the surrounding area.
Okay. But the on-site, it will just be the pad. It's not going to be an actual design
Correct.
proposed at the site. Okay. Ms. Gretchen, you came in a little late, but do you have any questions, general questions? Or?
Yeah, obviously I missed the earlier questioning, so if I may be repeating something, but what do we sense our chances are of actually getting an NFL team with this extension?
Perhaps that should be directed to AEG.
Yeah, why don't we invite AEG to the table?
Good morning, Ted Fickray with AEG. Thank you. We're obviously disappointed we haven't been able to secure an NFL commitment to date, and we nonetheless do remain committed to the vision, and as the CAO said moments ago, Plan A is our first choice, and we continue to work hard to see if we can make that happen. I hesitate to prognosticate because there's a lot of variables at play, some that we don't have control over. There's a lot of different parties involved between the league and one or more teams. What we can say is we've made progress in recent months with a renewed dialogue with the NFL that was encouraging enough to us that we felt it was worth taking some more time to continue the effort. There certainly are no guarantees, and we're not going to sit here and tell you today that we're guaranteeing that we can secure a team. We think there's enough reason to pursue a dialogue, and we want to be cautiously optimistic. But we also think it's important to advance the planning and the assessment of alternatives, just to ensure that when we get to the end of the 6 months, if we've not succeeded with the NFL, we understand it's important to the city and it's important to us as a stakeholder to make sure that we have thought out and developed what some of those alternatives might be.
And what's our chance that we get the Rams? The more important question.
Well, I won't speak to teams. What I will tell you is our dialogue in the first instance and currently is with the league. There obviously will ultimately need to be a team at the table, and I can't speak for what conversations the league may be having with their member teams, but our effort and our discussions and our focus with the NFL, our view and the feedback we've received from the league, we think that's the most constructive path to try to move forward here is to begin and pursue a dialogue with the league, and ultimately the league will have a say in determining which of their teams, and it could be 1 or 2 teams could end up relocating here.
Have we discussed the possibility, in case none of those teams are able to relocate, of expanding the league by a couple teams?
That's really a matter for the NFL. I think the consensus, and I don't think it's a secret, and it's not our place to speak to the NFL's plans, but I don't think there appears to be much a serious contemplation of expansion. Our sense, based on both feedback from the league as well as what's in the public domain, is that if an NFL team is going to come here, it would most likely be a relocation.
Very good. Thank you.
Initially, we thought the decision process was sort of driven by the October deadline that we were kind of working under. Can you give us some sense of kind of what the league's timing is in selection or in the review process, Ted, as you all see it?
Sure,
over the next 6 months?
Yeah, the NFL typically will act on relocation applications after their season is complete. So the regular season is over in December, and then they have playoffs in the Super Bowl early in the year. They have a window. It changes periodically, but their policy typically requires the teams apply for relocation January, February, and then at least in the ordinary course, the league would act upon that, I believe, at their March owners meeting. So that actually ties in nicely with the 6 months that we're requesting here. If we can progress to a potential transaction, it would within that 6 month window, the NFL's natural relocation cycle would occur.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wesson, do you have any questions at this time?
By this extension, if we were to agree, explain to me again what will occur with the other entities that are in play where it relates to design and, you know, what have you, because I know we went, not on our own, but we moved forward with some plans ourselves. So I want to just make sure it's crystal clear in my brain how all of this blends together and that one does not adversely affect the other.
So the process will now be a collaborative one. We are using everything that, all the work effort that went into the Plan B, the solicitation of architects, 11 people responded, 11 teams responded, Bureau of Engineering selected 3. We will be issuing a notice to proceed with the design concepts. As part of the criteria that will be submitted to the architects, it will be a collaborative effort between BOE, AEG, the Convention Center, and led by your CAO and CLA. So everything, all the work effort that went into it will proceed as planned. And at the end of the day, we will get the 6 concepts. We originally contemplated only 3. Now we will actually get 6 design concepts as part of the design competition.
And my last question, Ted, 6 months you think is enough to see if this is real or Memorex or whatever?
Well, you know, Councilmember Price's question was a good one on timing, and as I indicated, the 6 months would encapsulate the normal relocation window. I think within that time frame, we ought to have a pretty good sense of whether a commitment is being secured from the NFL. There will be additional work to be done from that point forward, which is why we requested, and the proposal before you has the concept of city staff having the ability to provide some additional time to close escrow and take care of what I would describe as important but largely ministerial and administrative matters to close the transaction. But you know, the heavy lifting and the part that's going to be critical is getting to that NFL commitment, and we think that would happen within 6 months if it's going to happen.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank the CLA and the CAO for your work in putting this project together, along with AEG. I think this really sets a new tone for collaboration and for cooperation in a way that's very positive. We're all excited about the prospect of bringing NFL football back, and I think we want to give AEG the benefit of the doubt and an opportunity to convince the league that we're ready. Having said that, the deal also allows us to work during a 6-month period to make sure we have the best deal for the city. And I think we all appreciate the importance of an expanded convention center. That point has been made well, the need for that. And so, you know, it appears that we have 3 amazing architecture firms. They're going to be creating some real illustrations, some real models, and giving staff a chance to do some financial modeling to figure out how we pay for it and how we make that happen. You know, the citizens deserve a world-class convention center, and I think this certainly is going to be an exciting opportunity to make that possible. We've been joined by another colleague, Mr. Gil Cedillo. Mr. Cedillo, do you have any thoughts or comments before we move to a vote?
No, I don't want to disturb the work of the committee.
Pardon?
I said I don't want to disturb the work of the committee. I believe they've done
not a disruption at all. Your input's always welcomed.
No, there's been obviously a great collaborative with AEG over the last 15 years. I'm sure the concerns are outlined, the record exists. Representing the first district, obviously we have an interest that the benefits that will accrue, the core of downtown also roll over into the first district. That barrier of the freeway should not be a barrier of the wealth and resources that will be generated from this endeavor, and so we just obviously want that to be part of the record and move that forward.
Great. Well, if there's no other comment, members, I'm going to move that we approve the CLA and the CAO report and their recommendations about moving forward with the report as amended. If there are no objections. Seeing none, that will be the order. Thank you. Any other business before the committee? Any general public comments?
Mr. Chair, we do have one general public card.
Okay, let's take that general comment card.
Amendment, approving the amendment.
Those of you that are leaving, if you'll do so quietly, please.
To approve this amendment.
Mr. Herman, I understand you've care to make another comment? Mr. Herman?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for being a little late, but we're here. I just want to, this is general public comment, remind Mr. Koretz, thank you for the assault. My arm feels better. However, it happened on October 7th during general public comments. No offense, buddy, but keep your hands to yourself in the future on any civilian when speaking on general public comment.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. City Attorney,
This is
Mr. City
general public
Attorney,
comment, sir. You're interrupting.
Mr. City Attorney,
Please hold my time.
Mr. City Attorney, and you don't tell us what to do or not to do. My question to the City Attorney is, this, what he's talking about has absolutely nothing to do with this committee. I don't mind him saying what he has to say, but does it deal with this committee?
No, it does not.
Then, Mr. Chairman,
your comments are out of order.
he needs to speak on things that fall under the control or jurisdiction of this committee.
So the control problem here is this, folks, is that, as you heard regarding the NFL, $600,000 for 6 different plans, and we, the city, by Ms. Herman, we, the city, have to possibly pick up that tab for what? A necessity and convenience at a time when the city is in a financial, irresponsible downfall? If not, then homeless people would be at the NFL games on a constant basis. So would I. But I can't afford AEG prices to attend a sporting event. So on behalf of many constituents and all the people of Los Angeles, let us not agree to this until there is more improvements and our objectives to what we agree upon as taxpayers. Because without this result, the NFL can come in here and charge any amount to their games that we want to participate under activities, programs, and service to attend all of the NFL games. I loved it when I had my season tickets for the Raiders at the Coliseum, and I want to see the Coliseum revitalized, enhanced, and improved with every state and federal dollar that AEG and LA Live does not allow homeless people to walk onto the premises because they're viewed as discriminated against, not to activate their access on that property of LA Live. Thank you.
Thank you. Although maybe your comments were inaccurate, we certainly appreciate your
No, not at all. Thank
your
you.
comments. Any further business? This meeting is adjourned.